This isn't selling sunset or $1 million listing. Hope I'm not like flashing you guys. This is a different world. We are in the south of Italy. It's not that kind of channel, so I bet some of you wish it was. Ciao ragazzi, welcome back to my channel. As you can see, we are no longer in Italy for the time being. We're back in my beloved London. I don't know if my baby is in frame, but okay, she's like, you don't want to be on camera, my love? No, she doesn't love the camera, but we are back in my beloved London with my little honey. I'm very excited. The next time that we are going to be in Italy, she's going to be coming with us, so that will be an adventure. All right, so this is gonna be a nice little casual Q&A. First time I'm doing something like this. If the camera moves around a little bit, it's because Lily's prancing around. She is not one for, I don't know. Let's get comfortable first off. So, my friends, we're gonna do a Q&A today. I'm back in my beloved London, but we are trying to keep the Italy vibes as consistent as we possibly can. You know, I sometimes just feel like, I don't feel like a different person when I'm in Italy, but being in Italy does something to me, and one of the things that I'm trying to work on is the freeness and the relaxing mind that I feel I have when I'm in Italy. I want to try and carry that back with me to London when I'm like in the big busy city. It's not super easy. Like, I don't know if you can see out my window, but it's a metropolis out there. There's like all of this craziness going on. Whereas in Puglia, I'm just in such like a calmer resting state. So Bay and I both are working on the way that we feel in Italy. Can we bring that feeling back to our daily lives in London as much as possible? I'm already rambling when I told myself I didn't want this video to be too long because I don't want to have to edit it.
Get your money, man. Life goes on. Hopeful. Yes, I am hopeful for today. Take this music and use it. Let it take you away.
I have a bunch of questions here that you guys have submitted on the channel, over my community posts, over on Instagram, and we're just gonna try and do this rapid fire. I'm gonna read out the questions, let y'all know my responses, and yeah, I hope you guys find it as fun as I think I'm gonna find it. All right, first question. I got a lot of versions of this question. Are you moving to Italy for good? You thinking to ever relocate there fully? Am I thinking about relocating to Italy fully? Yes, I think about it all the time. There's your answer. But the reality is I live in London. You know, this channel is called Anise London. The irony is I'm building a whole community based off of not living in London, but that's okay. London is my primary residence. It's where I reside, and I am happy here for sure. The reality is, like, I am in my mid-30s, Bay is in his early 40s. We are not at a place in life where we can just go and like retire to Italy. If I did ever move to Italy long-term and live there fully, like, I would need to sort out a visa situation that would allow me to work, and yeah, we're just not there yet. I think that that's definitely, like, visas and stuff is definitely a very relevant conversation to the topic of living abroad. I know that as far as my audience goes, I think there are probably a lot of people who would be eligible for the visa that is related to retiring abroad. I think they call it elective residency visa, but I am not there yet. That requires also that you're not working and that you have enough funds to just live in the country without having to work. I'm not there. So yeah, like, there's a lot that Bay and I still need to get figured out in our lives. We want to have a family. We bought on the beach. We love where we bought. It is not necessarily the closest to schools. I mean, there are schools in the neighboring towns, but then there's a whole conversation of, if you're raising children in Italy, are they going to go to a local Italian school? Is that local Italian school good? Are they going to go to an international school? There's international schools in Italy for sure. They're not that close to us where we bought. So lots of considerations, but simplest answer is, do I think about moving to Italy? Yes, I think about it all the time. Am I going to be moving to Italy and relocating, living there full time, like, anytime soon? No, guys, sorry to disappoint. I'm disappointed too. But you know, I'm also happy with my life here in London, and I have a lot more to still do in London, so. Okay, next question. I would love to know how you chose your team to assist you in the process and the negotiation of buying the beach house. Also, why this house, that is the garden house, was the one. I'll start with why this house was the one. The garden house was always at the top of my list. I just thought it looked amazing in the listing photos. The beauty of it, I love the arches. And then when we went to go see it during that weekend, the vibes were good. I hate to sound so, I don't know, simplistic or like Gen Z, but I did talk about this a lot in my series. I think that energy is very important, and when you step into a space and how it makes you feel shouldn't be ignored. I felt good in the garden house. And I mean, I don't know this family. I could be totally making this up, the previous owners. But I felt like the garden house was a house that had a lot of love and memories in it. It was one of the few houses where you could tell that this wasn't just a simple beach house where these people came a few weeks out of the year and like just used it for sleeping. Like, it clearly was a house where these people raised their children. And when we did the viewings, they had wedding photos. They had wedding photos from the 70s or 80s up on the, probably earlier than that, because I think they were married. I guess maybe the 60s or the 70s, up on the wall. You know, like, this house meant enough to them that they like imbued it a lot with themselves. And I really liked that about the garden house. I liked the tall ceilings, and I just could see myself, a future family there, friends, and I thought that the garden house offered a lot in terms of it being a rental property. The fact that it had a separate unit that was smaller, the main house could be rented out to a larger group. I could see like a bachelorette group wanting to stay there. The fact that there's a pizza oven and barbecue in the back. The roof is very large. It makes a lot of space for entertaining. I think I actually deep down always knew that the garden house was the one, but I knew to go into the viewing measured, because you don't want to go into a viewing being totally in love with the property that has the highest listing price. But I think in the end, we decided it was worth it. So that's why we went with that. I'm supposed to be keeping these answers short, and I'm not. Ugh, oh my God, here it goes. Okay. And the second part of that question was, I would love to know how you chose your team to assist you in the process and the negotiation. So I want to first say that when you are buying in Italy, it's important to keep in mind, especially if you're someone from the West, like the US or the UK, if you're buying abroad, you want to understand the culture of where you are buying. Italy is a very especially the south of Italy, is a very relationship-based place. So if you guys watched my series and you watched the first episode, you know that a lot of this started because Bae and I went on holiday in Puglia. One of my best friends here in London is from Puglia. So we did 1 week at this like lush masseria, and then we did a second week with my friend's family. Did we go on that holiday knowing that we were gonna leave the holiday already making offers on properties? No. But my friend's family has been a very big help putting us in touch with people. Not that they, right off the bat, knew people who worked in real estate, but you just like talk to people and they're like, oh, I think so-and-so maybe knows someone who does a little bit of property finding, and so on and so forth. And then also we made friends at the Masseria, at the Agro hotel that we stayed at, and we kept in touch with them. So much of our experience in Italy has been every single time we go to Puglia, we make new friends. Every time, even the last time I was just there. I'll give an example. The day before the deed signing, Bae actually went down to Italy earlier than me because I flew in just for the day. And he was walking on the road of our house, and there was this woman with a dog who was walking beside him, and the dog kept kind of coming over to him, and he noticed that she spoke English. She was speaking English to the dog. He said hi, and then turns out that she's married to an Italian man, and they live also on the beach. And yeah, like now they're our friends that we see every time that we go down there. And actually, it's through that couple that we now have our current contractors who are doing the renovation, because they had done a lot of work on their own beach house. We saw the work that they did on their beach house, and they had great reviews of their contractor, so now we're using their contractor. So yeah, that is a lot of how our life as we know it now in Puglia unfolds. Italy is definitely a place where like family, community, it takes a village. Those are some of the primary values, especially in the South. And those values really infiltrate, in a good way, our lives when we're down there. And that's a lot of how we get things done, just by making friends and talking to people and yeah, being in the community. And so we've been very blessed in that respect. I hope I'm not like flashing you guys here. The microphone is kind of pulling the neckline of my dress down a little bit, but you know, it's not that kind of channel, so I bet some of you wish it was. No, I'm just kidding. I have a very demure community on this channel, which I'm very happy to say. How long did the negotiations take? Next question. From the time that we submitted our first offer to the time that we agreed on a price, it probably took like somewhere between 2 to 3 months, which I know sounds wild. I mean, I'm from New York. You want to buy a house in New York, you better be ready to put that offer in that day because that house is probably not going to be available, if it's great, by the evening, right? Like, deals get made that fast. This is a different world. We are in the south of Italy. Things take time. People move slowly, right? The owners of our house, first off, they were an older couple, and I think even one of them was like not so well and had to go to the hospital. Like, so people have things going on in their lives. There's that. Two, because it's their beach house, they weren't living in that area. They actually lived up in the north in Torino, in Turin. And then we're doing everything through translators and agents, right? So Bay and I had our team, Antonio and Anna, and we would communicate with them. And then Antonio and Anna would communicate with the real estate agents for the sellers. And then those real estate agents would need to communicate back to the owners. And all of this information kind of has to get passed back and forth. And, you know, this isn't selling Sunset or $1 Million Listing where Ryan Serhant just like gets on the phone and texts and like gets an answer and then goes, no, it's just not like that. So sometimes it would take a few days for people to respond or to get back on the same page. And then on top of that, Bay and I couldn't just hop on the phone and talk to Antonio and Anna. Antonio and Anna do not speak English, right? That's why we needed the help of Giorgio, who was translating for us, or we would use Google Translate. So maybe things would have moved faster also if we could just get on the phone, but we couldn't really. So all of our communication with Antonio and Anna were either happening over a scheduled call with Giorgio to help translate. Lily, you were gonna knock over my tripod. Ugh, let me get her a blanket so she can get comfortable. 1 second, guys. Okay, so if you want to make a nest and ruffle things up, you gotta do it here, honey. Not over there, please. Okay, back to what I was saying. So we would need the help of Giorgio, our translator, or we could only communicate with Anna and Antonio through email or text, because I would use Google Translate for every message. And it would take time to write these messages because you also like want to put the English text into Google Translate in a way that it actually like translate properly what you're trying to ask. And sometimes the things that you're trying to ask are not so straightforward because you're asking about Imhoff tanks and sewage. Like, you're trying to understand things better about how things work in the house. So look at me, like I don't think it's possible for me to tell short stories. But the short answer is I think it took about 2 months to agree on the price. And then it took another month or another month and a half for us to get the deed signing at the notary's office scheduled. One thing that really helped speed up the process was getting the notary involved. I was able to find an English-speaking notary who was not too far from the region where we were buying. Obviously, once the notary gets involved, everything starts getting really real, and notary doesn't have time to waste, we don't have time to waste, and once you start like making appointments and stuff, it just kind of helped things like move along. And anything that we weren't sure about, we also just talk to the notary about it, because the notary is there to make sure that you're not getting bamboozled and that everybody's on the same page and everything is clear by the time you end up buying the house. Okay. I really like this next question. Is his name Bay, or do you mean it as boyfriend? I'm confused. Totally understandable. His name is not Bay. I call him Bay because I just don't really want to use his real name. You know, I am a very public-facing person. He's not so much. He runs a business. It's not his YouTube channel, so it's just more of kind of like a privacy and protection thing. I think there have been maybe like 1 or 2 times where I was a bit tired when I was filming and I like let his name slip. Don't go searching for it. But his name is not Bay, I just call him Bay because for anyone who doesn't know, Bay is a term of endearment. I think it was much more popular like 15 years ago, and it stands for before anyone else. So it's like, it does usually mean like your boyfriend or the most important person to you, like the person you're dating. But actually, Bay is not my boyfriend, he my husband, girl. Yes, that's my husband. You would never know because I don't wear a ring. But basically, Bay and I are spouses. We had a ceremony a few years back. It was very small, it was private. It was just the 2 of us and 2 friends of ours who served as witnesses. We didn't have a wedding, and we always knew that we would have a wedding. It was pandemic time. Because we knew that when we did our little small ceremony, we would eventually have wedding years down the line. We wanted to save the exchange of rings and stuff for when we had the wedding. We are doing a lot of things out of order, but I think that's the reality of 21st century life. Obviously, back in the day, there were steps, you know, you court, you date, you get engaged, you get married, you buy the house, you have the baby. Things are getting done all out of order these days. For us, I mean, a part of it is also like, are we gonna drop all this money on a wedding, or are we gonna use some of our earnings to invest in property? And so we've made that decision. But we will have a wedding. I will continue to call him Bay. Maybe some of y'all will continue to still be confused, but that's my man, and that's all you need to know. Okie doke, next question. Why did you buy the villa through a company, and how? Are you buying a car in Italy through your company? Okay, so super great question. I will give a brief answer for now, but I do fully intend to do a whole video with Bay on the process of buying our Italian beach villa through a company as opposed to buying it personally. So the and how part will just be a separate video, but the why did we decide to buy the villa through a company? Okay, so a couple of things. First off, we always knew that we wanted this to be a business that would generate rental income. And considering that Bay and I are from different countries, we live in a 3rd country, UK, together, and now we have bought in a 4th country. So just from that perspective, for the sake of ease and tax purposes and reporting purposes, to us it made most sense to buy through a company. It just seemed to make the process easier. Can you buy an Italian villa from abroad personally and run a rental business? Absolutely. It's just going to have, there are different regimes for different kind of ownerships and the different kind of businesses that you could potentially run. So for us, it was a matter of ease. It just felt easier to do it through a company. And 2, on top of that, Bay works as an advisor in the area of international tax and international company structures. So he himself has a better understanding of those implications as opposed to implications that are personal. And then the last thing is kind of just a bit serendipitous, kind of like how this whole journey for us was serendipitous. Oh, we went on holiday, my friend lived there, we fell in love with the culture there, we saw that houses on the beach were not very expensive, so we were like, timing also worked out in the sense that we owned a property through a company that we had recently sold around the time that we went on holiday. So we had some earnings in that company, and we were trying to figure out next what to do with those earnings. Were we gonna, you know, put it into the stock market? How we were gonna reinvest it? And yeah, like that's basically how our budget was decided, because we had sold this singular property and we had the funds. We ended up buying our villa in cash. We didn't get a mortgage. So for us, simply, it just so happened that the funds that we had for buying a villa in Italy, it existed in a company. And that's a big part of why we also decided to buy as a company. The second part of the question was, are you going to buy a car through your company? Yes, we are. So in Puglia, you really need a car to get around. You could live in a town that has a train station, and you could live in a town where everything that you need is there. But if you want to go in between towns, which we have to because we bought a beach property and the beach is pretty much dead like 9 months of the year, you need a car to get around. And what we have been doing, we've been renting a car every single time we've gone back, and it's just not sustainable. When we go in the winter time, March, early spring, we can get rentals at a very good price. Like I've gotten a rental before that was priced at like 36 euros a day or something, great. But when you get closer to the summer, I don't even want to talk about how much. I was just in Italy for about almost 3 weeks. Don't want to talk about how much that rental cost for that period, right? So we do plan to buy a car because that's a part of the business of being down there. When I'm going down there as the property manager and the overseer of the renovation project, I need to get around from meetings to buying supplies, so on and so forth. That's a part of our expenses. The idea is to get a used car, to get something that is functional, that is not too expensive. The other tricky part is Bay can drive a manual. Bay is European. So they can drive a manual. I cannot. I am American. I drive automatic. Automatic cars tend to be a bit more expensive. They tend to be not as plentiful in the region. They like smaller cars because they are easier to get around the teeny tiny streets of Puglia and easier to park. I have an appreciation for that for sure, but I just feel a bit safer in a slightly bigger car. I'm not even talking about like SUV, Jeep, you know, kind of situation. The last car that we rented down there on this past trip was a Fiat 600. We've also, I think, driven Fiat 500X before. So that's the kind of car I would like. Because we are gonna buy a used car, we are probably not gonna get a Fiat 600. That's a brand new car, you know. But maybe there are some used Fiat 500Xs or similar cars that we could get at, I don't know, like a couple thousand. We're really not trying to spend more than a couple thousand. We are trying to always make savvy financial decisions. Okay, hope that answers your question, but there will be more to come in a future video on our process of buying the villa through a company. I'm interrupting right now just to let you guys know that if you haven't subscribed, you like really should. Have you subscribed yet? Are you one of my subscribers? I think you should be a subscriber. If you watch it on TV, hit the subscribe button. Well done, guys. You have done your good deed for the day. Okay, next question. My girl Anna, she had a whole list of things that she wants to see discussed on the channel, and I got you, girl, I got you. We're gonna talk about all of that. I'm still figuring out how I'm gonna do my renovation series. So the same way that I did a whole series on doing the villa viewings and buying the villa, I'm gonna do a whole series on the renovation. You will get a lot of your questions answered in the renovation series once it starts. I'm gonna figure out when that's gonna be. But just to answer one of your questions, for instance, you said, what kind of considerations do you have to make the villa livable and rent it as an Airbnb? And then connected to that question is something that you asked, as well as a bunch of other people asked. More generally, how's the reno going? Okay, so firstly, the considerations for making it livable and to rent it as an Airbnb. Another reason why we chose this villa is that like we could live in it right away. Was it super comfortable? I mean, you guys saw the episode that I titled, Do We Regret Buying Our Italian Villa? So like clearly there were issues, and I really don't know how to trust. I feel like even that video didn't fully give the full picture of how uncomfortable it was living in the house during the winter seasons. I didn't share this enough in those videos, but like it was very cold. I am someone, I just can't stand being cold. I'm very uncomfortable when I'm cold. And the villa as it stood was very cold in the winters because it just isn't made with the materials for winter, and there's no insulation. So that is one thing, for example, that we will be changing and updating. We are gonna put a little bit of insulation in the villa. We are gonna make it so it is livable year round, which means we are gonna put heating in there. I think someone had asked, are we gonna do mini splits? Yes, we're gonna do mini splits, meaning we're not gonna do a central HVAC system, but rather we're gonna have AC/heater units in the individual rooms. A big part of why we are deciding that as opposed to central air is because central air would also likely require us to lower the ceilings. And like, I don't care if it's 4 centimeters. I love my high ceilings. I don't want to give that up. As far as considerations for making Airbnb, like, yes, there are important considerations that you have to take into account if you want to have a rental property in Puglia. You're going to have to go through all of the municipality regulation benchmarks, right? So you'll have to meet certain things in order to get a CIN or CIS number. And that basically is just the number for your rental unit that's registered with the municipality. There are a lot of things that we need to consider. So for instance, it's very unlikely to get a CIN number or to basically get the blessing of the municipality if you don't have a certificate of habitability. Again, I will do a very clear video on all of the requirements, but just to touch the surface. You need that your villa has been certified that people can live in it. There's a lot of different little things. I will get into a much more detailed video about that. Oh, and then the other part of that question was, how's the reno going? So the reno has started. Nothing too wild. We have updated the cistern. You guys saw in, was it maybe 2 videos ago, what the inside of that cistern looked like, and it was just basically it looked like the bottom of a riverbed. Once we finally did get the pump working, once we bathed in that water, it honestly felt like we were kind of putting a layer of slime all over ourselves. But the cistern has since been updated, so it's like clean and beautiful and isn't like getting water out of a swamp. And we have also started work on the roof. I've told you guys a billion times, the roof of the garden villa had leak problems, so that was always something that we were gonna have to redo. And you know, we could have done like a little small job of just patching up where there are leaks, but we basically are redoing the whole roof. We're putting in some insulation so that the home can stay warm during the winter and keep the cool air in during the summertime. So the renovation project is not something that we can rush, and it's going to be done in phases. There's a lot of information for me to kind of unpack and share with you guys about the renovation, and I don't want to be sloppy about it. So I'm gonna take some time to really think about how I want to package and deliver that information to you guys. I don't know, I wanted to deliver something good for you guys in terms of the renovation series, and I also don't want to burn myself out, so I'm not really rushing on that. Yeah, no one asked about that, but I'm just letting you guys know what's going on in my brain. Okie doke. Next question. Do you work remotely? How were you able to transition from the USA to London? Was it for work? Yeah, I work remotely. Bae and I are both self-employed. We run our own businesses, so that gives us a lot of freedom in that respect. Okay, let's just try and give a very compact short story of my journey. I used to be a lawyer. When I was in New York, I was a lawyer. Didn't love doing that, was pretty unhappy, wanted to change my life. My whole life I was very creative, and I was a singer, I was a musician, so I basically just started my life over. I got out of New York, stopped being a lawyer, moved to London, and I was working as a musician, and I was also releasing music. Pandemic happened, so that slowed down a bit, and music industry is also very tough. I wanted to explore still my creativity as a professional, but I wanted to try something other than music, took a stab at acting. It's been going pretty decently well, so I work remotely, also as an actress. My agent is based here in London, but the beauty about 21st century acting industry is that a lot of times auditions are self-tapes. So you don't actually have to be based in a city to like go in for an audition. Obviously, if you get a call back or they want to see more of you, yes, they usually ask you to come in. But a lot of times for a first round audition, you're just filming it like I am right now on my phone, and you send it in. And also because we bought the property through a company, I'm contracted through that company to do a lot of the work that I'm doing for the property in terms of currently managing the renovation, and also I will be managing it as a property manager when we start renting it out and so on and so forth. Bae runs his own consultancy. He has a couple of offices across a few different countries, and a fairly global clientele because he specializes in international structure and international tax. But yes, he also works for himself. So like in terms of our work life, we have a lot of control over that, and that allows us to live the way that we do internationally. And how did I make the transition from USA to London? So I moved to London alone with myself and my baby, my little doggy here, Lily. One of the easiest ways to be able to move abroad is to like get a job there, but I knew that I no longer wanted to be corporate. I actually have a whole video on this. I think it's the second video I've ever published. I think it's titled like from corporate to creative or something like that, making the creative leap or something, where I talk about my whole journey. Also, because I had been a lawyer in the States, I had gone to school for a very long time. I had very little interest in doing more school, but when you really want to move and the easiest way is to maybe get a student visa, that's the route you take. So in order to move to the UK, I had applied for a 1-year school program in London. And once that visa ended, I had to find another one. I just had to keep figuring it out. And here I am 7 years later, on track to getting my British citizenship, which is wild. And yeah, it's been a journey. It's been a journey, but you can do it. And I think, you know, I'm a firm believer that when there's a will, there's a way. And just because something is hard doesn't mean that you shouldn't do it. Yeah. Okay, just a few more questions left. We're probably running at an hour at this point a lot. I'm definitely gonna have to do all the editing, but it's fine. All right, so this I got asked a lot. US, UK, or Italy? What's your favorite? Do you like Italy better than the UK? Listen, y'all, in 2025, I know better than to say I like one country better than the other. You are not gonna get me caught out saying something crazy that they're gonna use against me in the future, okay? But I first am proud to be an American. I am. But yeah, I left the US, right? So I have a new life that's not in the US, and I'm happy with my new life. I'm also very happy to live in the UK. Remember I said I'm on my British citizenship track, and we ain't gonna say anything that's gonna jeopardize that, you know what I mean? No, I'm very happy to live here in the UK. London and New York are different, but they're also similar enough. So, you know, when I moved here, it's not like I had to learn an entirely new language. There are a lot of similarities. There are also differences that are important enough that it made it worthwhile for me to leave New York. And then UK and Italy, I mean, they're just very different countries. In Italy, I'm on the beach drinking Aperol Spritz and dancing to Volare and like living my best life. In London, I tend to be working. It's just a very different experience. But that might not necessarily have to be like boiled down to one place is better than the other. It's just my life is different in these two different places, right? So I'm gonna be diplomatic and say that they are all amazing and I love them all equally. How's that for an answer? If y'all know me enough on this channel, you can read between the lines and figure out what I'm trying to say, so I'll leave it at that. Okay, last question. This is a fun one. What's the best meal you've eaten in Italy so far? I eat a lot when I'm in Italy. I just went to the gym this morning, and I don't weigh myself that often, but I decided to weigh myself today, and like I definitely picked up a few pounds from the last trip to Italy. It's inevitable. You go to a restaurant in Italy and you know what's on the menu? Pizza and pasta. Pasta and pizza. Pizza, pasta, pasta, pizza. You know what I mean? Like, it's gonna happen. You're gonna gain some weight. But you know what? The food is delicious. My all-time favorite Italian dish is linguine alla vongole, which is linguine with clams. I could eat that probably every day. But one of the best meals I've had in Italy, it has a certain name. I forget how to say the word. I forget how to say this word in Italian, but I have had crab pasta in a few different places in the south of Italy. I don't have it often. I've probably had crab pasta 3 times in my last year of traveling to Puglia, and every time that pasta hit. I've always been just like flabbergasted at how good it is. So I'll say that's the best meal or my favorite meal that I've eaten, but I eat a lot of good food in Italy and really enjoy it. Guys, I wonder where the timer is at. I'm gonna put on the screen how long this video actually is at this point. I probably need to just learn how to tell short stories instead of long ones. But the thing is, I'm just so like, I have so many things to tell you guys. I think that what we got going on here on the YouTube channel is a nice long-term relationship. This is not a little affair. This is something that we are taking our time in. This is something that has substance. So I know that I will have time to continue sharing with you all the things that I want to share with you. I'm gonna wrap it here. I want to say once again, thank you guys so much for joining. I probably should have said this earlier, but if you watched to the end and you're not subscribed, definitely hit that subscribe button. I need to like maybe record a separate bit. I'm interrupting right now. Now we're back to our regular scheduled programming. Yeah, so I'm sure I like very much looking forward to continuing to share this journey with you in the same way that like you guys don't really know where it's going. I don't really know where it's going. You know what they say, like there are a lot of things that I am learning in this journey and I couldn't be happier to share them with you, especially if you want a similar journey. And I'm someone who's also just like figuring it out. I like to think that I am a very diligent person. I did used to be a lawyer. One would call a calculated risk kind of person. So in as much as I can help anyone who's watching this who maybe is a little bit apprehensive about taking a next step and like doing something very different or like living a different kind of life, I hope that being here as a part of my channel can help you find the inner confidence to live the life that you've always wanted to live. That's what I'm doing. And there was a time where I was living a life I really, really, really did not like. So change is possible. I am here to be a part of that journey for you if you want it. And now that I've gotten all sappy and weird, this might be a good time to just sign off. Maybe wake up Lily so she can have I think if y'all saw how cute Lily was on the daily, you would definitely be coming here more for her than for me. I probably don't show her enough. So why don't we end on a Lily shot? She definitely was just trying to sleep and I've just bothered her. But yeah, the next time you see Lily, I think she will be in the garden villa. Lily is going to make her way to Italy and we are gonna have a fabulous, amazing time together. My little baby. On that note, thanks again, guys. Have loved doing this little Q&A with you. Maybe we'll do another one in the future. Stay tuned for more videos with more details on a lot of the things that you've been curious about. And until then, ci vediamo. Ciao. Ciao. I hope this thing recorded. Can you imagine if it didn't record?